Pull that back a little bit. All right? Sweet. There you go. Cool. Good afternoon. How are you guys? Happy Sabbath. My name is Justin, for those of us we haven't met yet. Just want to say a huge thank you for welcoming us here. My family's here. I want to acknowledge a couple people. Oh, my dad's in the back there on the camera. He's waving. He's the one that looks like my way older brother. Next to him is my younger brother. There's that. And then my dad's family is over here. My mom, right here. Mom waving hand. Mom's family over here. Got a bunch of siblings in the house. I'm the oldest of 5. And I think everyone's in the house today, right? Yeah, they are. And also, one other guest that I have here is my grandmother. Of course, I want to give a shout out to my grandmother. Also, Jasper here. You guys need to check out Jasper on Instagram at PSTR Jasper. This guy's amazing, living out of a suitcase for the last 3 years, traveling to an estimate of around 200 to 300 countries in the last 3 years. He's done films, videos, photos, things like that. He's been doing photography for like a year and a half. And he's already been featured on National Geographic like 4 or 5 different times. Been to China to make videos about the leper colonies in China. He's been to North Korea, like actually been to North Korea, not a joke, and we're in a Korean church. He's been to the North Korea part. He hasn't been to South Korea yet. Traveling the world, doing some really cool stuff. He's actually going to be sharing, we'll be doing the Q&A sessions together, and this afternoon he'll be sharing some of his story as well. But I just want to give him a little plug. Check out his Instagram. He's doing some amazing stuff. He has some YouTube stuff that he can share as well. But today, what I'm going to be talking about is pick up your phone, follow me, why God is raising up a generation of digital missionaries. Now, this is the way, I'm talking to the young people right now, this is the way that I describe what I do to old people. Because you and I understand what a YouTuber is. You and I understand what a vlogger is. Like, I just, immediately we have a picture that comes to our mind. Old people don't quite understand what that means. So I use language like this. I say, I'm a digital missionary. And what that means is I go online and I use the internet as a way for me to share my faith, to share the gospel, and to help other people get to know more about Jesus Christ. So every day I'm pulling out my phone, I'm doing photos, I'm doing videos, I'm one of those obnoxious kids that walks around with a phone in, and I'm like talking to myself in the camera. You see those people out in public every once in a while? That's me. But the difference is the reason why I do it is because I'm trying to help people learn more about Jesus. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to be here with you today. Because we've been doing church the same for at least hundreds, if not thousands of years. Things haven't really shifted too much. And I believe that the internet today is one of the best ways that we can reach, yes, the world at large, but especially for young people to engage with our faith a little bit more in a meaningful sense. So here's something that I believe, and I'd like you to consider this. We are facing what I believe is called the largest communication shift in the last 500 years. 500 years ago, what happened? If you think anyone knows that they're world history, what happened roughly 500 years ago? Anyone know? There you go. Someone does know. We had the invention of something that was radical, technologically speaking, which was called the Gutenberg printing press. Now, I actually got to go to Wartburg Castle with Grandma. What was this, 2 years ago now? Almost 2 years ago. Got to go to the very room where Martin Luther is transcribing the Bible from, into German, to the language of the people, and eventually the Gutenberg press was created. And now we have books. And it's great because Christianity has seized that technology. We've been able to use technology like books in an amazing way. And yet, something even more important, something even more world transforming is taking place, and that is the internet. I'm saying this, what is it? Oh, you're pulling me. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, awesome. And that's the internet. And what I think is this is a really huge opportunity for us to seize as a church, and yet a lot of times we're falling short when it comes to what we're actually doing with this. Let me introduce you to a problem. This is a problem that I saw just a couple of years ago. I've been doing this digital mission work. I've been doing the vlogging thing for about 3 years. I started 3 years ago with very to little, no experience, almost at all, just decided to give it a shot. And this is the problem that I saw in the world around me. And maybe you've seen this too as well. There are studies that have been done by different institutions that say 59% of young people who grow up in the Adventist church will leave the church by the time that they reach the age of 18. I want you to think about this. Now, you think about your own personal experience, those of you who have graduated from high school, made it past college, or in the working force now. Think about your own experience. The statistics show that in the Seventh-day Adventist church, the kids that go to Pathfinders, they go to Sabbath school, they even go to somewhere like La Sierra, Walla Walla, at these universities, Southern, whatever. Within 18 months of when they leave the home and they make it to college, 59% of Adventist millennials have already left the church. What's astonishing is that 23% who are still in the church are considering leaving. So what we're seeing right now is somewhere in the range of 80 to 90% of young people who are raised in Adventist churches are thinking, I don't know if this really is for me anymore. I don't know if this is really speaking to my life and bringing value to my life. And I don't know about you, but this is a problem for me as someone who cares very much about the church. This is something that's not only plaguing Adventism, but also churches at large. In fact, less than 17.5 of Americans attend church every single week. That's not just young people. That's you old people too as well. So it's not like you could just say, oh, the young people, they're the problem with the church. These young people don't care. No. Look around. Think about your own experience. How many of your friends and your family members that are your age are still attending church? The answer is an astonishing 17.5% of Americans, whatever age you are still choosing to attend church every single week. Here's another statistic. Every single year, 20% of all Americans end up leaving their church every single year. If it weren't for the fact that many of you old people, and I hope you hear my heart when I call you old, right? Many of you old people are still having kids. Some of the old people in this room were wishing that I was having kids right about now. Not happening anytime soon. Which I should mention, my wife wishes she could be here. Yesterday she got sick. We decided it would be best for her to stay home. Unfortunately, so my wife brings you greetings. Wish she was here with us today. But what we're seeing is that we're seeing this trend. People are leaving the church. If it wasn't free for simply because that we are reproducing, the church would just be dying. This is crazy, right? This is why Islam is on such a massive increase. It's because, well, hey, they're repopulating the earth at a significantly faster rate than Christians are. It's just the reality of the world. But here's the thing that we're seeing. This is an interesting trend. That the Western world is actually quickly becoming a mission field. Now, I want you to think about this. What this means. When you think about a mission field, what picture comes to mind? For Africa, okay. Third world country. Some of us might think of jungles. Some of us might think of deserts, starvation, right? You're hungry, you're thirsty, you can't read, you're poor, whatever it is, right? That's the picture of mission work for most of us. But what's interesting is that when you ask most of the world of what they think about mission work, is that they actually think about you and me. They think about the United States. It's interesting, a study was done by one of the seminaries in the United States. They did a total number of how many missionaries are sent around the world. How many missionaries are sent to the Philippines, for example? How many missionaries are sent to Africa, for example? How many missionaries are sent to South America? And then they found out that the country that received, not sent, received the most missionaries was actually the United States. In other words, somewhere in the world there is someone growing up in Indonesia. When they think about God working in their lives, saying, God, I want to be used by you. I want to give my heart to you. I want to be used in whatever way that you see fit. God is speaking to them and saying, all right, instead of staying here in Indonesia, what I want you to do is I want you to pack up your bags. I want you to go to California to serve as a missionary. Because we're seeing this trend that the church is suffering in the first world. In the third world, the church is actually blooming and blossoming. And so what we're seeing is that the Western world is quickly becoming a mission field. And so when I think about this problem, young people are leaving the church, young people aren't engaging with the church, or Americans in general aren't engaging with the church, what is the solution? What is the response? Or at least what's one of the potential solutions? What's one of the potential answers to this problem? And I'd like to say that the answer quite literally is in your hand. I'd like to propose that something as simple as your phone is one of the ways that you and I can contribute to being part of the solution as opposed to simply complaining about the problems. See, that's something that I believe that we are called to do as Christians. I believe instead of being called to complain, criticize, or become complacent about whatever problems that we have, I think you and I are called by God to become change makers, right? You and I are called to be influencers and to make a difference in the world. So rather than complaining, rather than being complacent, rather than just criticizing what's going on in the world around you, what can you do about this? What can you do to make a difference? My answer is by using social media and technology. Here's why. This is the average day of a millennial. Now I realize that the conversation is shifting from millennials to Gen Z. You guys are not millennials, I understand that, I'm sorry. You get all the bad rap for my generation of millennials, they just put that on you. But here's the average day of a millennial. And there are some millennials in the house, so I'm curious to know how this stacks up for you. And even if you're not a millennial, I want you to be thinking about your own day-to-day experience. How does your average day look like? According to Wall Street Journal, this is how millennials spend every single day. Every single day, they spend roughly 3.5 hours on the internet. They spend over 3 hours and 12 minutes on social media. Every single day, they're spending about 2 hours and 19 minutes watching live television, about an hour and 47 minutes playing video games, watching movies for an hour and 15 minutes, listening to the radio and or podcast or Spotify for about an hour and 15 minutes. They're texting their friends and messaging about an hour and 4 minutes, and then they're shopping and doing all the different brands, Amazon Prime, whatever, for about an hour and 4 minutes. The long story short is the average day for a millennial is about 18 hours per day behind a screen. Now, you say, wow, but I want you to think about your own experience. What was, for example, the very first thing that you did today when you woke up? For me, before I even found my glasses, the very first thing that I did was scroll through my Instagram stories. How about you? Maybe? I don't know. It's okay. What is the first thing that you do? So I do videos online. Every once in a while I'll do live streams, right? And I'll do a live stream and hang out with my viewers, my subscribers, or whatever the case is. And so I'm doing this video. I'm asking, hey, so what are you guys doing right now? Like, where are you? What are you doing right here, right now? And people were answering in the comment section. So, oh, I'm actually right now, I'm in class. I'm in science class right now. I got earbuds in my, okay, cool. Right now someone's like, oh, I'm babysitting and there's my niece is playing by my feet. We're in the living room. I'm like, okay, cool. Someone's like, oh, I'm driving. I'm like, oh, be careful. Like, just listen only, don't watch then. Someone was honest enough to say, I'm actually in the bathroom right now. Now, I want you to think about this. When was the last time you went to the bathroom without your phone? Right? I think for a lot of us, we're guilty here. Now, I was able to share this statistics with Andrews University. That's where our seminary is. That's where all the pastors-to-be are at, right? I shared this statistic, and I asked them to raise their hands. How many of you, future pastors and future evangelists, leaders of our church, this accurately describes your life? Over 50% of them raised their hands. Wow. So, don't feel bad if this is your experience. This is my experience as well. This is the experience of many of our pastors. This is the experience of many of our people in our pews. This isn't just young people, by the way. One of the biggest culprits that I know in my personal network is grandma. Grandma is always on the phone. Grandma missed was it a bus or a train? I think she missed a bus or a train because she's playing Words with Friends. And that's not a knock on grandma, because you do it too, right? Yes? This is how you say yes, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so we're all on the same page. We're all using our phones so much. 18 hours a day. That's amazing. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. Now, just for clarification, a lot of these activities are happening multiple times at once. So I am sitting at home, playing a video game, there's a TV on the side while listening to a podcast. So it's like 3 at once, right? It's just like this information overload, okay? So it's not the worst thing in the world. No, it probably is pretty bad. Never mind. So, here's what I do. I compare how often does a young person engage with social media compared to how often do they engage with Scripture. How often are they engaged at church? And for the average young adult, maybe they spend 1 hour per week in church. Now, did you know that in the past, we used to define regular church attendance as 3 to 4 times per week, per month. 3 to 4 times per month. Maybe you missed one because of a family thing, or maybe you were sick once per month, but on average, you were considered a regular church attender if you went 3 to 4 times every single month. Now, we say you're a regular church attender if you go twice. But let's say you went every single week. Here's what the math would line up. For every hour that you're spent engaging with spiritual things, you're engaging with social media over 100 times. Now, I see that, and I'm like, oh man, I'm guilty of that. I need to do a little bit better. Like, how many of you guys man, I got to do a little bit better than that, yeah? Okay, I see the pastors raising their hands, so you guys can feel good if you have to raise your hands too. It's all right. I'm like, man, I got to do better with this. But then I also think, well, this just makes sense. Why are we surprised when young people are leaving the church? You look at that, and I'm surprised that we're surprised that they're leaving the church. Because when you're doing it 100 to 1, that just changes the way that you think. That just changes the way that you see the world. That just changes the way that you live, right? We know this in the church. This is the principle that we say. By beholding, we become. So you've heard this before. And this is what, by and large, we are beholding. So here's the thing. Here's what our church tells us to do. This is, maybe you've heard this sermon before. The sermon goes like this. Run away from social media. Maybe you've heard seminars, maybe you heard sermons where the pastor or the preacher or the teacher is like, okay, social media is bad, it's addictive, it's evil, it's changing the way that our young people are thinking, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, if you want to learn more information, go and follow me on Facebook. Have you heard that before? I've heard that one before. And it's interesting that we say social media is evil, social media is evil, social media is bad, whatever. And to an extent, like, is it? Yeah, we can all agree, it is actually bad. But I want you to think about this. How likely do you think we are to be able to convince an entire generation of young people to put down the phone and never use it again? How likely are you to even yourself do that? Right? This is just a losing strategy. So I want to propose a better strategy, a better alternative to you guys today. Okay? This is what I want you to think about. Eleanor Roosevelt said it like this. It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. It's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. So one thing that we see, social media is bad, it has this negative influence, we're addicted, yada, 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 yada. So our response is, take away the phones, take away the Wi-Fi passwords, make sure that our kids only get 30 minutes a day or whatever the number is, right? This is not a very wise strategy, because guess what? By the time they become 18 years old and they go to college, that 18-month window is super telling that maybe we haven't done quite a great job at equipping our young people to interact with the real world, because when they leave, they leave. I don't know what that is. That's not me. Just keep going. All right. If the building's going to be on fire, there's a different sound in place, right? I need to know. All right, cool. Okay, so my solution is, hey, rather than cursing the darkness, what if we as a church actually did something about this? What if we actually used social media for good rather than just allow the world to take place? Now, I want you to think about it this way. Just complaining about social media and saying the church should run away from social media is like this. It's like thinking, oh, you know what? There are some really bad books out there. There's like these evil books, like, 50 Shades of Grey. Or there's this bad novel that I heard. Therefore, Christians should never read. Like, does that make sense? No. Like, that makes zero sense. You see, because it has nothing to do with the medium itself. Books, literature, magazines are just a medium. It's the content that matters. And just because the world is out there making terrible books and magazines, just because Playboy exists, does that mean that the church should never print another magazine or never should send out another literature evangelist? Well, of course not. The proper response is, rather than cursing the darkness, is to actually be part of the solution itself. Don't just complain, don't just criticize, don't be complacent. Be the change that you want to see. Does that make sense? You hearing what I'm saying? So what does it look like for a church to be engaged on social media? Well, this is the question that I wanted to investigate 3 years ago when I found this problem for myself. And so I decided to go to YouTube. Here's some statistics about YouTube. Every single day, 30 million people sign on to YouTube. In fact, YouTube reaches more millennials than any broadcast or cable TV network. The average viewing session, on average, when someone goes to youtube.com, they end up watching for about 1 hour. It's not just 2-minute cat videos anymore. It's actually, you're spending a lot of time on YouTube. How many of you guys know this? How many of you guys spend a lot of time on YouTube? Let's be honest. Yeah, so all the young people in front. Okay, cool. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. It's not just a place for comedy and pranks and skits, though it oftentimes is. But YouTube is also a place where people go to learn things, for example. How many of you guys have ever gone to YouTube and typed in a question because you had a problem? How many of you guys have ever done that? Yeah, I know that I've done that before. How do I, for example, tie a tie? How do I, for example, change my brakes? This is something I had to do last year. I had to change the brake pads on my car. How many of you guys have ever done, how do you play an instrument on YouTube? How many of you guys have ever done that before? Yeah? So we're all familiar with the idea. I go to social media to learn something. I go to social media, yes, to be entertained every once in a while, but also for my life to be enriched, okay? I want you to think about this. How many of you think that people out there are actually searching for spiritual questions out there on social media? That makes sense. How many of you guys have ever, I know that I've done this many times. When I'm preparing a sermon, or I'm preparing a Bible study, or preparing a YouTube video, and I have a question about the Bible and I don't know the answer, because I actually never went to seminary. That's not true. I went to seminary once to speak. That's it. So when people ask me, have you been to seminary? Yes, I've been to seminary. It was a great 2 days of my life. But when I have a question about the Bible, I do what probably every pastor does. I Google it. Hey, what does the Bible say about blank? Bible verses on this. And what we're seeing is that people are actually going to YouTube as well for questions about faith. Hey, how do I study the Bible? Or what is prayer like? Why does God allow suffering? Or how can I understand the book of Revelation? Are examples of questions that can be asked online. 54% of Christian millennials watch online videos about faith regularly. They ask questions like, is God real? How can I study the Bible? What happens after death? Bible, prophecy, and questions like, what is faith? In fact, all those questions I just listed, over 100,000 times are being asked every single month, according to Google. Every single month, 100,000 people are asking questions about faith. And the question I have for you is, what answers do we have for them? If we all run away from social media, who answers that question? Well, if we're just cursing the darkness, certainly not the church. And just because you and I choose to log off and run away, does this mean that these conversations no longer are happening? No, it just means that someone else gets to answer the question instead of you. And that may or may not be a good thing, right? I want to share with you guys a little video. How many of you guys have ever been to Washington, D.C.? Okay, a couple of you guys. There's this place that you need to go to. It's called the Museum of the Bible. It's pretty interesting. There's a new museum there that's really awesome. I want to share with you guys a short little video that I shot from there, okay? I think you'll enjoy this one. The audio should work already, right? Says to wait? Okay. Not on? There we go. We got it on. Sweet. Guys, this video is for anyone who's ever said that Jesus is... Oh, let me put the volume up on this guy. Alright guys, this video is for anyone who's ever said that Jesus is coming soon. Something that I agree with in theory, but this room at the Museum of the Bible is going to rock your world. So behind me is an entire library of books. Every single individual book represents a language in which the Bible has been translated already. But something interesting about this room is that literally over 50% of this room, you notice all the books are yellow. And every single individual yellow book represents a language that the Bible has not yet even been translated in. Every single one of these yellow books represents a people group who have not even received the word of God yet. Yeah, sure, Jesus is coming soon, but the Bible says that the gospel must go to the entire world for a witness. And if you look around me, there is still a lot of yellow. There's a lot of work to be done. So what are we doing? Why are we playing games? Guys, it's time to get serious. It's time to do the work that God has called to do. Check out all these yellow books. I don't know about you, but I'm inspired. Let's do this. All right, check that out. That's amazing, right? Like, how many of you guys have ever thought, I wonder if Jesus is going to come in my lifetime? Yeah? How many of you guys hope that Jesus comes in your own lifetime? I know that for me is a hope of mine. As an Adventist, right, that's what we believe. Like, I am super hoping that Jesus comes in my lifetime. I go to a place like that, and that faith is challenged quite a bit. Because I see how many people have not yet heard. I'm thinking, man, how long does it take to translate the Bible into one of these languages? You see, this is where technology comes in, and this is where it can make such a huge difference. You upload one video to YouTube. You put the sermon transcript or the video transcript up into Google. Google will translate it for you to over 100 different languages at the drop of a hat. Technology is one of the most amazing ways that you and I can spread the gospel. But I want to ask you a question. If you were to run away and the church was consistently just cursing the darkness, when someone comes and they have questions about faith, and let's say for a second they did ask you, they wanted to ask your opinion as a Seventh-day Adventist, what would that look like on the internet? Let's say that you had a friend or a neighbor that you've been praying for weeks and months and years, and you've been inviting them to church, and finally they say, oh, Justin, I'm really interested. God's doing something in my life. I have all these questions. I'm interested in going to church with you. Can I go to church with you? And you're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. It's an answer to your prayer. And they say, okay, cool. Would you mind picking me up so that way we don't have to caravan together? Okay, no problem. I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever the time is. Say, great. I'll see you on Sunday. Oh, say, here's the thing. I don't go to church on Sunday because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. We go to church on Saturday, and they say, oh, wow, Seventh-day Adventist, what's that? I've never heard of that before. So what do you think that they're going to do next? What's the next thing that they're going to Google it? Now, I don't know how many of you guys have ever been on that side of Google before, but it's a crazy side of Google, right? Like, it's kind of scary when you type in Seventh-day Adventist in the internet and you see what comes next. It's not very encouraging. I want you to think about it like this. If you're traveling somewhere and you're visiting a new neighborhood or new part of town and you're looking for something to eat and you don't know anyone who can give you recommendations, what's one of the first things that you do if you're looking for a restaurant that's open, that's got good food? What's one of the first things that you do? You see, you guys all do the same thing. You guys are the ones spending 18 hours a day behind your phone, right? We all Yelp it, and we say, oh, this restaurant has great reviews, right? How many of you have ever intentionally gone to a restaurant with 1-star reviews? No one? Of course not. You would be an idiot to show up to a restaurant with 1-star reviews. Like, how many of us, I could ask a different question, how many of you guys like getting food poisoning? Right? Like, none of us, right? That's just ridiculous. I want you to think about it this way. What happens if we consistently curse the darkness, turn around and run away? When they search for Seventh-day Adventists, what do you think comes up? It's not very good. Let me show you at least 5 of the top 10 videos on YouTube that talk about Seventh-day Adventists. Now, you can't read that because the screen's really far away, but I'll read to you the titles of those videos. Video number 1, Seventh-day Adventists Exposed, Run Away from This Cult. Over 250,000 people have seen that video. Video number 2, 10 Things You Should Know About Seventh-day Adventists by the Atheist Voice. Over 270,000 people. Third video, former Seventh-day Adventist pastor for 13 years gives his testimony why Adventism is wrong. Video number 4, Secret Cult of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And video number 5, former Seventh-day Adventist pastor exposes the lies and intentional deceits of Ellen White in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Over 1 million people have heard about your faith from someone who actively hates your faith. Over 1 million people have heard about what it means to be a Seventh-day Adventist from someone who's actively trying to destroy the foundation that we stood on. Now, this is what happens when we as a church choose to give up our voice in the conversation. The conversations don't go away. It just means that you and I have no voice. This is why cursing the darkness is a terrible strategy as a church when it comes to social media. What do we do instead? Instead, we should be seeking... Oh, I know what the beeping is. It's the camera. It's the GoPro now. That's what it is. I don't know if your battery's dead. It looks like your battery's dead. All right. So, I don't know about you, but that's a problem, right? So what do? We got to be part of the light. We understand this model. Okay, mission work, ministry. We understand the idea of sending missionaries door to door as coal porters. We understand the idea of preaching evangelistic series. I've done many of those evangelistic series, both here in the States and abroad. We understand the model of sending missionaries to foreign countries. I have some friends right now that are in Cambodia. They've decided that they're going to be, my friends are 28 and 27 years old, I think. They're in Cambodia. They've decided to commit 10 years to be missionaries in Cambodia. They're learning the language. They're living with the people. Why? Because they believe in the message and because they believe that the message can change people's lives and they want to share that message with other people. But what about this guy? What about this guy who lives 2 miles from the church, who hasn't been to a church in 20 years, who has questions about faith, but he doesn't have a pastor in his life. He doesn't have any spiritual friends. What do you do when he has a question about faith and he goes to the internet asking for questions? Where are the missionaries for him? Where are the digital missionaries? Now, I don't know who that guy is. That's just a stock photo I took from some random website. For all I know, he could be a Christian already. I don't know. But I'll show you one picture that I do know. This is my friend Michael. Michael Troynoski III. Michael was raised in Pennsylvania in like one of those kind of religious but not religious homes. Like he went to church on Easter and maybe on Christmas. And that was it. And he was like trying to figure out life. He's one of these millennials that's spending 18 hours a day on the internet, just doing everything else that you and I do, playing video games, addicted to it, yada, 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 yada. Well, he found a YouTube channel from someone in Oregon. Not someone that you would have ever heard of. This guy maybe had like 100 subscribers, not a professional, nothing special, no fancy gear, just making videos talking about his walk with God. For whatever reason, Michael was drawn to this story. He was drawn to this person, started watching these videos. Michael literally became a Christian, literally became a Seventh-day Adventist because of a single YouTube video. It works. And here's how I met Michael. I met Michael when I was in Philadelphia a couple years ago teaching at a Bible college. You can see Michael. Can you see Michael in this photo? He's all the way in the back. You might not be able to see. See my head? I'm the one with like the reddish, pinkish shirt. He's the head floating on top of my head. That's him. I got to meet him. I got to disciple him. I got to work with him and train him and be able to be there for him in his victories, in his failures, in his success, in his happiness, in his downtimes, and in his depression. But over the course of the time that we got to develop a relationship, I had the honor of being able to bring Michael to the river and baptize him as a Seventh-day Adventist member. It was an incredible joy, and I get to see Michael today. What is Michael doing presently? Michael is serving as a digital missionary because he realizes the power of a single video. He says, this changed my life. I want to let it change other people's life as well. So I got to meet Michael, and I got to think about all the years of ministry that I've done. So I've done 10 years of literature evangelism. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done canvassing before, but it's not a very easy thing. Think about going door to door in this neighborhood, knocking on doors, getting 100 doors slammed in your face every single day. It's not the most fun thing in the world. I think I estimate somewhere about 100,000 people I've personally knocked on their doors. Today, I get to do 100,000 to 200,000 engagements per month on the internet. What took me 10 years to do, I do in 1 month now, because of the power of the internet. So I got a camera, picked it up, decided to try. Now, just a little background. I've never taken a graphic design course. I have never taken a video or an editing course. I had a GoPro at the time, and that was pretty much it. I've only ever taken, that I can remember, one single art class. My dad forced me to go to an art class. I think he always had dreams that one of his children would be an artist. That dream has fallen short. None of us have that artistic gift, at least not that I'm aware. Maybe you guys have developed that gift. Oh no, you have the artistic gift. That's right, I remember now. I took one art class. I drew a monkey, and that's all I know how to draw now. I can draw a monkey. But I never took it, so I buy a camera. I'm trying to figure this out as I go. I said, you know what? Here's how I learned how to run a camera, how to shoot a video, how to edit a video. Guess how I learned? Through YouTube. Oh, that's right. I went to YouTube to learn how to do YouTube, and it worked out rather well. So I started making videos. This is the apartment in Philadelphia that I was living in as I was shooting my first videos. You can tell it's tiny, it's a mess, but I'm just doing the best with what I have. Those lights, those are super cheap. I got those at Home Depot. Those aren't even real like video lights. Tiny, cramped little apartment. This apartment was rat infested. Like every night as we're lying our heads on our beds to sleep, you could hear little rats scampering across the floor. It's just so nasty. Our neighbors, if you look at the left side right there, there's like a little pillar. There's a window right there. Our neighbors had a window like right adjacent to us. Our neighbors, every single day would be smoking pot. And so every single day, as I come home from teaching at Bible college, I come home ready to make my video, my whole apartment reeks of marijuana. So there's a very strong chance that while I'm shooting that video, I'm under the influence of a different spirit. But just doing the best with what I have, decided to make videos. You know, I didn't quite know what to do. This was about 3 years ago. It was around New Year's time. I said, God, I feel like this is important. I see how it changed Michael's life. I look online and no one's really doing it. I see our church just cursing the darkness and running away. What if I became part of the solution? I don't have the skills or talents. I don't have the resources, the money to do it. I don't have the gear. But I'm just going to commit. I'm going to try my best. So I said, God, I'm going to make one video every single week for the next year. And what does success look like? I don't know. Like, I'm sure it's not millions and millions and millions of subscribers, but what could I do? And I thought about it like this. If I was going to go and plant a church, I was going to start a Bible study group from nothing, what would success look like? If I created a church plant and 20 people came every week, would that be successful? If I created a church plant and at the end of a year, 50 people were there, would that be successful? Like, yeah, that'd be super successful. So I said, okay, at the end of the year, I wrote down this on a piece of paper. God, my goal is to be able to reach, at the end of 1 year, 250 people. If I can create a community with 250 people coming back week after week after week, it's worth it, I'll keep doing it. So I write that down. Cool, I'm good. God tells me in the back of my mind, Justin, that's not big enough. Dream bigger. Okay, so I just doubled it. 500. I'll try 500. Little did I know what would happen. After 2 months, I had already hit 500. And after 12 months, that first year, my audience had grown to a point of over 10,000 people. Presently, I get to serve on YouTube to an audience of about 80,000 people. And what's cool about this is like 80% of them are under the age of 34. They're the very demographic of people that we're losing as a church. The very people that I highlighted, and the problem that are leaving, people that we're not successful in ministering to, those are the people that make up my church. And they're coming back week after week after week. Let me give you an example of what this looks like. This is a 12-month window. By the way, everything has been organic. I have not paid any money for advertising at all. And this is what has happened. In the last 12 months, 1.485 million views, 48,000 likes, 13,000 comments, 11,000 shares, 35,000 new subscribers, and this is my favorite one, over 2,300 new Bible study requests on the internet. See, there's this myth, there's this thing that we say all the time in church that, oh, young people aren't interested in spiritual things. They don't care about church. They're disinterested in all this and that. What if it was actually true what the young people are saying? No, we do care. We are interested. But really, church is just boring. Like, what if we took that at face value? What if we tried to learn how do we communicate the things that we care about, that matter to us, in a way that speaks to them in the way that they can hear it? You hear what I'm saying? This is kind of the approach that I decided to take with this, and lo and behold, people are in fact being reached. I'm gonna skip past that. Okay, so every once in a while I get comments from my videos and things like that, and I remember getting one comment from someone who says, "Hey Justin, I'm a 13-year-old girl, and I got a question for you. I'm the only Christian in my family, I don't have a car, and there's no way for me to go to church." She was responding to a video in which I said, "Listen, young people, if you're serious about wanting to grow your faith, you need to get involved at your local church." I'm not talking about you just show up and attend church. I'm talking about you getting involved, serving, being a part of the community, actually making an impact at your local church. Even though I'm creating community online, I'm very intentional about trying to help young people plug into the local family unit, the local community group, their local church, because I think that really matters a lot. So she's responding, what do I do? How do I solve this problem? So I write back to her, I said, and this is kind of my temperament, I'm not usually a very patient individual, it's not one of my gifts. So I write back and I tell her, stop making excuses. I said, I guarantee you, if you Google a church nearby, you call up the pastor and say, hey, I'm 13, 14 years old, I don't have a ride, I want to join your church, can you help me find a ride? Maybe the first church won't say yes, but you call 2, 3, 4, 5 churches, I guarantee you, one of those churches are going to answer that call and be like, yeah, of course, we'll come and send someone to pick you up, we'd love to have you here. So I tell her, stop making excuses. I send that comment off feeling really good about myself. I get a comment back that gives me a little bit more context to the situation. She says, Justin, and she is way more patient than I am. She says, Justin, I'm so sorry for not explaining myself. She says, you know what? I actually live in a Muslim country. I am the only Christian that I know. There are no churches near me. And so, wow, what do you do when you realize that quite literally, the internet is her church? That's the only way for her to do church, is by logging into YouTube, by paying attention to the videos, and by engaging in community. You see, the internet has the ability to go where you and I may never be able to go. Usually I can say, you and I will never be able to go to North Korea. But apparently that's not true, because Jasper went to North Korea. But most of us won't be able to go to North Korea to preach the gospel. So what could we do? Well, what if we, instead of cursing the darkness, light candles along the way? Not too long ago, I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, presenting for a seminar similar to this, and I finished my seminar. I'm about to get back on the plane. I'm walking down that little square pipe that you go right before the airplane, and I'm about to step on the plane, and I see the stewardess. She's there making coffee or whatever she does, and she looks at me and she goes, oh, I know you. I'm like, what? I don't know you. Who are you? She's like, well, I don't know you, but I watch your videos. I was watching one of your videos this morning. I said, wow, how cool. This is Kayla. That was actually her first week on the job. So I got to talk with her, hang out with her a little bit. It's crazy because I just see ones and zeros. I just see numbers on a screen. But these are real people with real stories, with real lives that are being impacted. I got to preach not too long ago, actually, at a Korean church in Georgia, of all places. Did you know that there's Koreans in Georgia? You might not think about that. But I went to a Korean church in Georgia, and I got to bring someone along. I did a little post on Facebook, hey, I'm going to Georgia. If anyone wants to come and hang out with me. Look who shows up. This is Helen. Helen is just becoming a Christian again, just asking questions. She brought her husband and her 4 kids. She made them drive like 5 hours to come and visit our Korean little church and worship with us that weekend. She promised her husband that if he came with her to the church, that they'd go and get crawfish afterwards. So he said, all right, I'm going to eat crawfish. But they came to church. And it's crazy to be able to connect with real people who have real stories. One of my favorite stories that I want to share with you guys, and I'm winding down right here. My favorite story comes from this guy, the Raging Atheist. The Raging Atheist is a fellow YouTuber. He actually is, as you can tell, a YouTuber who makes videos on atheism. And I remember seeing the very first video that he made about me. And I'm like, oh boy, this is not good. What is it going to be? Of course, curiosity killed the cat. So I click on that video and I watch the video. You can imagine I won't use the same language that he uses in the video, but what this video is like. It's very colorful. He's attacking me, saying Justin is this and that, and he's arrogant, he's bigoted, he thinks he's better, he's just like dogmatic, he hates gay people, and blah, blah. He's just like throwing everything out there. Just like makes like a 10-minute video attacking my character, right? So what do you do in that moment? How many of you guys have ever had someone do that to you? Right? Like, what do you do? Well, this time, I didn't just respond immediately, which is probably the wise thing. I prayed for a little bit. Okay, God, what do you want me to say? So I wrote back to him, and I said, hey, Raging Atheist, thanks so much for taking the time to not only watch my video, but also to rebut it. So one of the questions you put towards me in the middle of your video, I'm always happy hanging out with people with different worldviews. If you're ever in the Portland area, hit me up. I'd be happy to sit down over a cup of coffee, my treat. So I respond to his video saying, hey, it's cool. Like, thanks for responding. Thanks for engaging. Because really, when I think about the mission of my YouTube video, that's the whole point. I want to reach people who don't always believe what I believe, who don't see the world in the way that I see it, because that's actually what ministry is about. Ministry is not just about us hanging out together, protecting our kids, making sure we're all safe and sound. Like, no, mission work, ministry is about going out and telling other people, yes? So I said, all right, hey, thanks for hanging out with me. It was cool, because he actually responded. Here's what he said. He says, wow, I'm actually honored that you watched my video, that you took the time to respond. You're the first person to do so. And I'm thinking, well, like, yeah, of course. Because I looked at his library of videos. He's done like 100 videos already. Every single one of those videos attacking people. And most of the time, actually, not most, all the videos up to that point, who was he attacking? Like 15, 16-year-old girls who were making videos about their faith. Just like attacking them. And he had this thought in his mind at one point, he's like, man, maybe I shouldn't just attack girls. Maybe I should attack a guy too. So he just searches Christian vloggers, men. Comes out with my video, all right, I'm going to attack him, and attacks me right away. That was the first video, right? He says, you're the first person to do so. I respect your answer, and I believe it. I have fun, will continue to do so. Please have some fun with me. I would love to see it. I subscribed. I love hearing the other side. So now, I have an atheist, the Raging Atheist, subscribing to my YouTube channel. I subscribe to his, and we're viewing each other's videos in our feed, commenting back and forth, back and forth. A couple months would go by, and I uploaded a new video, and he responds to it. And this is what the video was. I was speaking at a youth camp where I was able to share a message on integrity, the importance of living your faith out, not being hypocritical, but, if this is what you believe, actually live it out. Don't just say you believe this and then live a different way. I was challenging young people to be like Daniel. Like Daniel, when he was tested by all the wise men in the kingdom, said, we're going to catch Daniel. We're going to find where he's in error. The only thing that they could find wrong with Daniel is one thing, that Daniel prayed too much. That was the only way they could trap him. So I was like, hey, I want to be like Daniel. I want to challenge you young people to be like Daniel, men and women of integrity. So I make this video. I film it, put it up online, and I see this video, the Raging Atheist, responding to my video. Now, those of you guys with really good eyesight, you can see the subtext right there, right? It says, man crushing on that Christian vlogger. A little weird, to be honest. Especially because the first time that I noticed that there was subtext was actually when I was in front of a church sharing this message. I'd never seen it so big before. It was always on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, screenshot, put it into my slideshow, no problem. I just saw the thumbnail. And then it's up there on the side. I'm like, oh shit, it says man crushing. Like, what in the world? So here's the story. He actually comes in, and rather than attacking me angrily and like just knocking me down, he actually meets me halfway. He says, you know what? I appreciated that message. And he's going point by point through my entire sermon. It's like a 20-minute video. He goes point by point by point. He shows a clip of me speaking, and then a clip of him talking, and then a clip of me speaking, and then a clip of him talking. He says, You know, I actually agree with what Justin's saying. This is the reason why I left the church. Because people were being hypocritical. Because people would say one thing, but then live a different way. He says, this is the thing that I think that the world needs to hear. I agree with your message, Justin, that we need to be men and women of integrity. Like, how cool. Like, that's pretty sweet. So that's the second one. A couple months later, I get another video response to him. Now, this one was kind of scary, because I made a video with this guy. This guy's name is Matthias. Matthias is someone who lives in the Seattle area. He's a double major. I think he just graduated recently in theology and psychology. He also is the host of a podcast called Queerology, a podcast on the intersection between faith and queer culture. Matthias is a fully affirming gay Christian man. He believes that same-sex relationships are blessed by God in the same way that heterosexual relationships are blessed by God. Now, I understand that that makes a lot of us uncomfortable. I know that for the vast majority of us, myself included, that's not something that we agree with. We believe that when God created marriage, it's for a man and a woman, that whole Genesis thing. Like, I believe that. But rather than doing what most people do on the internet, where you believe this, I believe this, you're evil, and I start attacking them and making accusations against them. Instead of doing that, I invited him to talk, to hang out. And I drove up to Seattle, because I live in Portland, drove up to Seattle, spent like 8 hours with him. Hung out with him, did breakfast, did lunch, walked around the town, got to hear his story about how he came out, how he's actually the son of missionaries, and what it was like coming out to his family. I got to hang out with him in his apartment, got to see where he makes his podcast. We spent the whole day together. At the end of the day, we filmed like 5 videos on this subject, about how can we maybe agree to disagree, but also learn from each other, to treat each other a little bit more compassionately, a little bit more lovingly, and how can we not allow our differences of beliefs to cause such a great divide between the two of us, where I can learn to love you better. Because here's the thing, if you ever want to convince someone of your opinion, whether it's on this subject or any other subject, do you think calling them names is the best way to do that? How many of you have ever been convinced by someone who is yelling at you, calling you all kinds of names, degrading you as a human being in public? How many of you are saying, wow, you're right, that's a really good point. I'm going to change the way I live. Like, how many? No. The way that you ever have a chance at doing that, and I would debate that's not even our role. That's the Holy Spirit's role. Our role is to love someone. But even if you were to try and change someone's heart, the only way you could ever do that is through loving them. Right? Drawing close to them as a friend. Jesus had the ability to see a prostitute bare naked in front of their accusers and still not yet accuse her. What did Jesus say? Now that I accuse you, go and sin no more. Right? Jesus wasn't willing to allow that sin thing to separate the two of them. He drew closer to them. And that's kind of what I was trying to do in these series of videos. So when the Raging Atheist makes a response video to this video, I'm kind of scared. Because I don't know what he's going to think. And to my surprise, rather on the first video, he's attacking me. On the second video, he's meeting me in the middle. On the third video, he's just like, yes, this is what we need more of. Because here he was learning about bigotry, about how not everyone's always the same. He was rejecting Christianity, rejecting people of faith because he thought everyone was always the same. And when he saw a Christian person sitting down without a judgmental attitude, just seeking to learn, he said, wow, maybe not all religious people are bigoted in the way that I thought that they were. He was learning through the videos as well. I clipped like 30 seconds of his video. I want to show you what he said about the video, just at the very beginning. You can watch the whole thing if you want. Warning, there's language if you watch the full video.
What is up, my fellow sinners and heathens, my fellow Christians, if you're out there, if you're watching Mad Love, this one's for you too. Today on The Raging Atheist, I am going to be once again looking at a friend of mine, that Christian vlogger. And he's doing great work on his channel right now. If you're not watching his channel, I highly recommend that you watch his channel. And I want to commend him for taking on this subject, because I kind of challenged him on this, and I don't know if he did this because I challenged him, if he's been planning on doing this for a while. It seems well thought out. And I want to commend him for his bravery on tackling this subject, because on his channel, he's really dealing with the problem that Christianity has when it comes to gay people.
All right, so you can go see the rest of the video there if you want to watch the rest of it. But did you hear the language that he used? My friend. If there's any kind of endorsement I could have ever received for my ministry, is that the raging atheist, who initially is attacking me and calling me every kind of name in the book, would later on call me his friend. And it's been really cool because we've been going back and forth for like over a year now. I literally emailed him yesterday. Like, we're in constant communication. And it's really cool to kind of get to know his story, to try and spend a little bit more time. Actually, not too long ago, he was doing a live stream. The Raging Atheist with the, what was it? He was on a live stream with the Frustrated Atheist. And the two of them were on live stream together. And they're going back and forth and saying, Christianity this, and blah, blah. They're just like out there complaining, right? And, just like making a video about it. There's a bunch of people watching. So I get the alert, there he's live. So I join in the live chat. Hey guys, what's going on? Just hope you guys are doing well, just checking in, seeing what's going on. During the live stream, the Raging Atheist, he's like, this guy's different than all the Christians that you and I are talking about. He says, this guy's actually pretty cool. You should get to know him. And then the Frustrated Atheist, he's like, you want to invite him on the live stream? Okay, cool. So next thing I know, I'm connected to my computer, my camera, and I'm hanging out with two atheists live streaming as they're complaining about atheism, or complaining about Christianity. So, man, Christianity this and this. How could you believe in a God that tortures people in hell forever and ever and ever? Christians are so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then it's my turn to talk. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, that's a really good point. I don't think I would believe in that kind of God either, right? They're like, what? What in the world? And they start talking about politics. Christianity, this and this. They just want to control the church, wants to control the state, and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's good. I think there should be a separation between church and state. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you also. Like, that's a really great point. And we're finding more common ground than things to disagree with. And the guy's like, dude, who are you? What denomination are you? I'm like, well, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And then the Raging Atheist is like, oh my goodness. And here's the crazy thing. Because I just found out recently where he lives. Guess where the Raging Atheist lives? Not in Portland. Very close to Berrien Springs. He lives in Battle Creek, Michigan. Those of you who know our Adventist history know why that's significant. He's like, oh my goodness, they run the place out here in Battle Creek, Michigan. I'm like, yeah, represent, that's what's up. So here's the thing. In like 2 months, I'm flying out to Michigan to go spend a whole day with the Raging Atheist. Because the internet is not just a place where people go to watch videos and to be entertained, although it can be. But the internet can be a place where you and I can have real relationships, real human interactions. I'd like to say that this is one of the ways that if we are interested in reaching young people today, this is what we got to be focused on as a church, is by raising up an entire generation of digital missionaries. So, as I'm closing, 3 things that I want for you to consider. 3 things that you as a church can do in order to take part in this thing. Thing number one is create content. Several of you guys in this church have the creative gift, have the ability to make amazing graphics and design and videos or whatever the case is. Many of you guys, not even an exaggeration, are more talented than I am creatively. Like, I'm not a creative person still. I pretend, and I play one on the internet. But I have so many deficits as a creative. You are more talented. You have the ability to do so. There are so many people that I know. I have friends that literally only have an iPhone. They don't even have a camera. They don't even have a computer. They edit on their phone. And they have an audience of over 100,000 subscribers. Okay? It's possible to do it with what you have. Create content. If you want tutorials or information, I have a course you can get, shop.christianblogger.com, if you want to learn how to be a digital missionary. Thing number 2, if you find content that you like, actually share it. Be part of the light rather than just cursing in the darkness. One of the things that matters a lot is how much does a particular video or graphic or quote do on social media. It all has to deal with engagement. How many likes, how many shares, how many comments. And what happens is, this is the reason why terrible content rises to the top. Because someone puts out a video on abortion, someone puts out an article about the LGBT community, and then everyone just argues in the comments. The platforms, they look at them and say, a lot of people are interested in this subject. We'll keep promoting it more and more. That's why you see it so often in your feed. And yet when something great comes along, what do you just say? That was good. And then you just keep going. No. Like, comment, engage with that. Share it with your friends and help promote the things that you find to be of value. Thing number 3 is actually support these people. You'll hear a little bit more about Jasper's story. You can hear a little bit more about my story. I didn't share my whole bit. The way that I started to do this, I actually literally quit my job in order to do this. I was teaching at the school in Philly. I came home one day from work. God made it clear to me, and I came and told my wife, babe, God's made it clear. It's time for me to give 100% to this thing. Translation, I'm quitting my job, and you're going to be the breadwinner for the next foreseeable future. We were only married for 1 year. That's not a very exciting thing for a wife to hear. That her husband, who is like at that point making the majority of the money for a household, is saying, hey, babe, I got this great idea. God told me that I should do this. That I should quit my job and make YouTube videos. To her credit, she's like, all right, let's do this. Because she believed. Because she saw the impact that it was having. Even at a very small level, she said, all right, let's do this. I had like 2,000 subscribers at the time, 3,000 subscribers. Nothing. It was just a dream, just a vision, and she supported it. Thing 3 that you can do as a church, support people like this. Support digital missionaries. Support them by helping them create content, provide opportunities for them, things of that nature. The last thing I want to challenge you guys, this is the super cliche. You guys know that story with Moses, the whole burning bush thing, right? He's running away, he's in the wilderness for 40 years. He sees a burning bush, he's out there tending his sheep. God asks him a question. What's the question that God asked to Moses? What is in your hand? What's in your hand, church? Use it for the glory of God. Even something as simple as a phone can change the world. My friend Jasper, he has some friends that are over in Indonesia right now, and they're just making Instagram content, right? And Indonesia is what percent Muslim, is it? 80% Muslim. And they're out there just making content on their iPhones or whatever the case is for their Instagram channel. Over how many followers? 80,000 followers on Instagram. Just a bunch of young people making graphics. What would it look like if you decided to, rather than curse the darkness, decided to light the candle where you were at today? And what would that look like if an entire generation of digital missionaries seeking to change the world by using their voice as well? That's a little bit about my story. That's a challenge I want to give to you guys. To don't curse the darkness, light a candle along the way. All right? Let's pray. Gracious Father in heaven, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story, to share and hopefully challenge and inspire young people here. And I want to ask, God, that you would send your Spirit in this moment right now to convict someone in this room. I believe that there are young people today who need to be engaged, who need to be involved. And I pray that if there's someone here that you have called, you've predestined that they will be doing this as well. That in this moment that your Spirit would descend on them. God, that you would make that clear in their mind. Help them to realize that they don't have to have all the answers. They don't have to know start to finish what everything's going to look like. All they have to do is decide in their heart, right now, God, I commit, I promise, God, I will do my best to follow faithfully after your calling in my life. I pray if that person is in this room, God, that you would give them power, that you would give them confidence, and God, that you would take them by the hand and lead them every step along the way. Thank you so much, God. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Which one? Oh, cool. Can I bring Jasper up here?
Please do. Yeah.
Jasper, come on up here real quick. So this is Jasper. We're going to do a Q&A. I love that you guys do this, by the way. This is the first church I've mentioned. You guys do Q&A after every sermon. That's super cool. So Jasper's going to be here. He's going to be doing the presentation at, what time is it at?
2:33.
2:30?
3 o'clock.
2:30-ish. He's going to be doing the second part, and he's going to be sharing his story, but how he became a digital missionary as well. For the question and answer, I know you don't know much about his life, but like just take my word for it. This guy is like a genius. He's awesome. He's doing some crazy stuff. Here, give us like 30 seconds on why we should listen to what you have to say.
We're going to talk about the same thing, almost the same thing as just in my journey as a missionary. Start from the bottom, like the dirty work and all that kind of stuff, and how God used. Currently, I do landscape photography, and how I use that in the ministry, and also I do a lot of filmmaking. Mostly, Justin does YouTube videos. I do a lot of YouTube films for remote areas, like those places that like unreached technically. So give them exposure, and to help the church will help them out. Build jungle schools and all that kind of stuff.
And talk about starting from nothing. You grew up in a third world country.
Third world country.
No talents or skills really.
No.
You just started doing the photography thing like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, a pastoral background. I'm a pastor originally, evangelist. Left pastoral work to do digital evangelism. So being homeless for about 3 years now, living around 11 countries per month or something like that.
Yeah. So he's doing awesome stuff. You guys got to check him out. And I just wanted to bring him up here, let you guys know about him, and if there's any questions that he can answer as well. I'd love to do that.
So, do any of you guys have? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Justin, thank you so much. That was a wonderful message. Really appreciate that. You said something that was really interesting. Besides sharing this, statistics of millennials leaving the church, is the fact that you said church is boring. And so I look at it. I have a 16-year-old son, and so we have a lot of youth within this church. And I guess, if nothing else, we actually talked about how do we get them to be able to be engaged. So to the point where we've asked them, please put away your phones. And now you're saying just something completely opposite. And so I guess my question is, how do we make it so that church is not boring for the youth that are coming up?
Yeah. So the way that I would challenge the paradigm is what is the purpose of them being here? Is the purpose for them to sit and watch? Because there's no way to make that interesting. At least for most of us, right? Like, I don't know, like, I'm at a disadvantage. I have ADD, ADHD, just like never could pay attention in school. So it's like accentuated in my mind. Like I just can't participate in just sitting, at least not for a long time. So the way that, like, there's this book. I would suggest a book for you first. It's called Growing Young. It's actually the very body that put out the research of all the young people leaving the church. They're a non-Adventist organization, but they have studied Adventism in specific. They teach 6 principles on how do healthy churches retain young people and then release them for the gospel's sake. One of those principles is that you give them load-bearing roles. Okay? A role in the church that actually matters. Not just one that's a token role, but something that actually matters. One of the biggest things that I see churches do is that they're trying, right? They want to get young people involved. So what do? They have them do scripture reading. Cool, like that's a great place to start. But if that's their only role, I think young people are intelligent enough to realize that anyone could do that. Right? Picking up offering, great place to start. Not knocking it, do it, like that's great. But is that really a meaningful role? And if it's not, then why should they stick around? Jasper has some friends that are some of the most incredibly gifted people, working as a designer in Apple, working as designers and leaders in Google. But when they come to the church, there's no role for them because they're not old enough yet. They're not mature enough yet, right? One story I'll share with you from my own journey, then Jasper can jump in. I was at a church. I just finished Bible college, about 21, 22 years old. I was ready to get involved in my local church. I transferred my membership to this church. I've been there for a few months, ready to give everything that I had to this local body to get involved because I wanted to make a difference. So I'm praying about this. Eventually, the board comes to me and says, Justin, we want to get you involved. I'm like, sweet. This is the answer to my prayer. They said, we want you to consider becoming a junior deacon in training. 22 years old. Gone through Bible college, preached evangelistic series here in the States, abroad, led ministry groups where I'm discipling literally dozens, if not hundreds of young people. Junior deacon in training. They handed me this paper, and literally what it meant was that once a month, I would have a senior deacon supervising and training me how to collect tithe once a month. You want to know what I did? And this may not be the right solution, but this is what I did. I literally left that church and never came back. Because I realized that my church, their vision for me was this small and God's vision was this big. That I wasn't in the right place. Because my role as a young person in that church was just to fill a pew. It was just to look good. Oh, we have young people in our church, but they don't actually do anything. They don't actually matter here. Now, I don't know where you guys are at, but I would challenge that paradigm. If there's any part of that paradigm that hits home, what is the role for young people? Are they having load-bearing roles? Do they have an opportunity for them to get involved in a meaningful way? Not the kind of way that you're just sitting and participating and quote-unquote supporting by watching. Because if that's what you have for them, statistically, they're gone. We have to do better than that. Every young person that I know that's still in the church today, it's because they have taken ownership of the church. They are not the church of tomorrow, they are the church of today. And if they are the church of today, how do you see that reflected in your church service?
It's true. Well, I don't know. We've talked about this in last time at the conference, which is true. I think one of the reasons why our young people leave the church is because they don't see support from us elders. From us elders.
How old are you?
Because if you see this happen, right? There's a lot of young people. It's true. One of the reasons why I left pastoral work is because I wanted to fuse pastoral work and media ministry. And no one supports me to doing that in the church. And guess what? I decided to resign because my urge of actually creating content than being in a board meeting is stronger, you know? And so, but when I go to the church, no one is really interested in helping me. And I think many young people today are leaving the church because we are showing as elders or older generations that we are not interested in their talents. Oh, you're too young, you know, or you just, you know. And if we show them, I think that's the greatest help that you could give the young people in the church.
I had a student at the Bible college that I was teaching at who literally told me this, and I love the words that she used to encapsulate this emotion, this feeling. She said, Justin, I'm a black woman, and I can't preach or sing. So he said, I thought my role in the church was to sit down, to pay my tithe, and shut up. Because we pigeonhole what ministry looks like as preaching or music. And if you don't have one of those gifts, sucks for you. Just pay your tithe and be content. Like that, like we would never use those words, but I want you to think about what are the ways that people can get involved. And is it much broader than that? Preaching, singing, paying your tithe. Do we have a role for men and women? Do we have a role for old and young? Do we have a role for people who can preach and can't? And if not, then I would challenge our model of church, because the Bible describes a church body as many members having different functions. Not all are the head, not all are the hands, not all are the foot. But then why is it that the only ministry that matters to the church presently only looks like the mouth? Maybe we aren't quite what Jesus had in mind when he thought of the church.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Hey, so I found it interesting how you established relationships online with atheists. But did you also establish relationships with other Christian bloggers, SDA or not?
Yes, many. There aren't very many Adventist vloggers. In fact, there are none. We have one or two YouTube channels out there that aren't really like vloggers. That's awesome, I love that. There aren't like really vloggers. They make like videos on prophecy, which like we're good at doing as Adventists, but that's not the kind of thing that reaches young people most of the time. So I have a lot of friends that are non-Adventist Christian vloggers. Like literally, I think it's in 2 weeks I'll be in Kentucky, hanging out with like 6 other Christian vloggers. We're just doing a weekend together. So yeah, I regularly connect. In fact, most of my meaningful interactions happen with Christians that are not Adventists, as opposed to Adventists. Because we're still, Jasper and I and other young people are still trying to raise the banner and say, hey, this stuff matters. Like, let's pay attention in this general area called the internet. It's kind of cool. There's a lot of opportunities, and that's still like a message that most people in our church haven't heard yet.
Hello. We have enough time for one more question. Any other questions? Tom.
Justin, I really appreciate your message, and we have a head elder position for you here. No offense, Khoe.
We'll just have to pay for my flight from Portland down every week.
When I ask my question, you do your thing, but does the Adventist Church or the organization of the Adventist Church recognize and support you at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. Shy of about 6 months ago or so, the answer would have been no. The Adventist Church knows that I do things, by and large, they're like, cool, like cheering from afar kind of a thing. In the last 6 months, things have changed a little bit, a significant amount actually. They are much more supportive. I've been able to dialogue with people on both a local conference, multiple different unions, division, all the way to the GC. I have friends that are in the communication departments all across our division. And the cool part is there's many individuals in leadership who are incredibly supportive, who get it, and are really actively trying to pave a path. The challenge is the people who are above them, who have that kind of power, they don't get it yet. So I have friends, for example, I have someone who's at the division level, who's the division communications director. Dave Webster. Great guy, super awesome support. Like, I couldn't ask for more. It's just the challenge is that he has to find out a way to create a pathway so that he could be like financially supportive of someone like me, if not me in particular, but then also create a new model of what does church look like for all the other young people who are going to be coming after Jasper and myself, the next generation below us. So the answer is like, yes, but yeah. It's still very much a grassroots movement at this point from what I can tell.
Thank you, Justin. We appreciate your contribution. So if you guys have the time, you guys can come to approach him, and maybe you can sit with him and have, a conversation during potluck. And maybe in the future, we can probably somehow collaborate if we can kind of have a plan where we can do something practical. You already suggested it there, but it's really exciting to see what you're doing. I see this as a future of ministry. Okay, let's have a closing prayer now. Okay. Father in heaven, thank you for this amazing message that you have communicated to your servant. And Lord, you have a work for us to do. As we saw all those Bibles that are not printed in all these different languages, Lord, and we're awaiting your coming, Lord, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Anyways, Father, may this message transition not only into our intellect, but into our hearts, and may we do our part that you're calling us to do. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.